He created a body that was to become the gold standard for muscular development. He would use it to achieve one goal after another, rising to the very pinnacle of not one, but 3 careers. From the very start, Arnold Schwarzenegger had the odds stacked against him. He was dismissed, he was ridiculed, he was parodied, all mercilessly. What people failed to realize was that Arnold's strongest muscle, it wasn't his biceps, it was his brain. With it, he orchestrated career moves that took him to the very top. In this Biographics video, we're going to uncover the unlikely rags to riches story of the one and only Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger was born in the tiny and Austrian village of Thal near Graz on July 30th, 1947. His father, Gustav, was the local police chief. Arnold and his older brother, Meinhard, grew up under the tough discipline of a man who was used to being obeyed. Arnold's early years, they were incredibly regimented. He'd be up at 6 and then off to get milk from the farm next door. Then he would have to do a set of physical exercises that his father had written out for him. He would earn his breakfast by doing a certain number of sit-ups. In the afternoon, after he'd finished his homework and chores, his father made Arnold and Meinhard practice soccer no matter how bad the weather was. If they messed up on a play, they got yelled at. Gustav had been a champion ice curler in his younger years, and he pushed his sons to excel physically. With his father's pushing, Arnold first got into competitive sports at the age of 10. He played soccer passionately for almost 5 years. When he was 15, Arnold's soccer coach decided that lifting weights for an hour once a week would be a good way for his players to stay in shape, so he took them for a visit to the local gym. This is a day that would absolutely change Arnold's life. He was mesmerized by the sheer size of the bodybuilders who stalked the gym, waging war with steel weights. Arnold would later record his feelings in his 1977 autobiography, Arnold, The Education of a Bodybuilder. There it was before me, my life, the answer I'd been seeking. It clicked. It was something I suddenly just seemed to reach out and find, as if I'd been crossing a suspended bridge and finally stepped off onto solid ground. Arnold, he embraced weightlifting. He soon discovered that he had an amazing ability to build muscle, and within 2 years, he had already overtaken most of the other trainers at the gym in Graz, where he worked out religiously. He also trained harder than anyone else. One Sunday, discovering that the gym was closed, he actually smashed the window in order to get in so that he could complete his workout. Arnold's father, though, he was less than impressed with his son's newfound obsession. Bodybuilding, it was really a fringe sport in Austria at that time, with those who partook of it being looked down upon and considered in some way defective. When it was discovered that Arnold had pictures of half-naked men with bulging muscles on his bedroom wall, a psychiatrist was called in to save Arnold from himself. The psychologist assured his parents that this was simply a phase and Arnold would absolutely grow out of it, and, well, as you probably know, he absolutely didn't. By the age of 17, Arnold had already realized that bodybuilding was going to be his vehicle to worldwide fame. He spent many Saturday afternoons down at the local movie theater watching bodybuilders turned actors such as Steve Reeves and his personal favorite Reg Park. He watched them on screen playing Hercules and other mythic heroes. They had used bodybuilding in order to create careers as movie stars, and that was exactly what Arnold wanted to do, only he was going to be bigger and better than any of them. Arnold, he entered the Austrian army in 1965 in order to fulfill his 1 year of service. By now, he'd built his body to 200 pounds of Herculean muscle. He was assigned as a driver in a tank unit. Shortly after he was inducted, Arnold received an invitation to compete in the junior division of the Mr. Europe contest in Stuttgart, Germany. But he was in the middle of basic training. No soldier was allowed to leave the base for any reason. But Arnold knew that his destiny was tied with winning this contest, so he decided to go AWOL in order to compete. He crawled over the wall, taking only the clothes he was wearing and barely enough money to buy a third-class ticket to Germany. When he arrived at the competition, he actually had to borrow someone else's posing trunks and their tanning oil. Still, his muscles were undeniable, and that night he was announced Junior Mr. Europe. At first, the army, they were not exactly impressed, and he was actually jailed for 7 days with only a blanket on a cold stone bench and almost no food. But within a few days, the news of his victory had spread, and the top brass decided that the title added prestige to the army. When he returned to the ranks, he was held up as a sort of ideal, with his drill instructor telling the troops, "You have to fight for your fatherland. You have to take courage. Look at what Schwarzenegger did just to win this title." Now, following his stint in the army, Arnold took a job as a gym instructor at a health club in Munich, Germany. This presented him with the ideal opportunity to train for the 1966 Mr. Europe competition. This was the next step in his master plan to become the best-built man on the planet. He trained twice a day, working like a man possessed in order to forge his winning physique. By the time he arrived in Stuttgart for the Mr. Europe contest, people were anxious to get a look at this monster from Munich, the one that they'd heard rumors all about. All of the attention infused Arnold with a great deal of confidence, and he already felt like the winner. Arnold's win that day was so emphatic that the judges offered to pay his way to the upcoming Mr. Universe contest. He arrived in London knowing almost no English, but as soon as he stepped out of his cab, people began mobbing him. They had all been waiting for him, the first bodybuilder in Europe with 20-inch arms. But unfortunately, he didn't win that day. The American, Chet Yorton, had a more complete, defined physique, and he forced Arnold to accept second place. Arnold returned to Munich and threw himself back into his training. He shut everything out of his mind and concentrated on only one thing: winning the 1967 Mr. Universe competition. And sure enough, on September the 23rd, 1967, Arnold Schwarzenegger became, at 20 years of age, the youngest Mr. Universe in history. A year later, an even more massive Arnold returned to London to claim the professional Mr. Universe title. Following that victory, Arnold received the phone call that would prove to be the next great signpost to his future. On the other end of the line, it was Joe Weider, bodybuilding guru and publisher of Muscle Builder magazine. Weider invited Arnold to compete in the IFBB Mr. Universe in Miami and then come to train in California and work for him. Arnold arrived in America in September 1968 with a gym bag, $20 and still virtually no English. He settled into a small apartment in Venice Beach and was given a small stipend by Weider in exchange for the rights to use his image in magazines. Arnold's plan was to stay in the USA for 1 year, absorb their training strategies, and then use them to beat the Americans at their own game. Arnold began training at a small gym at Venice Beach, Los Angeles, called Gold's Gym. He rubbed shoulders with all the American top bodybuilders, but quickly established himself as the leader of the pack. In 1970, Arnold won the coveted Triple Crown of bodybuilding, claiming the Mr. Universe, Mr. World, and the Mr. Olympia titles. He was now the undisputed king of bodybuilding. Arnold went on to win 6 consecutive Mr. Olympia titles as he completely dominated the sport. And with this, well, he was ready to implement phase 2 of his master plan. In 1970, Joe Weider got a call from a film production company looking for a bodybuilder to play Hercules in a low-budget film. Weider, he immediately thought of Arnold, telling the producer that Arnie had been a Shakespearean actor back in Europe. They signed him up immediately. The result was Hercules Goes to New York, and it was to be Arnold's first and most forgettable film. His credits read Arnold Strong, and his thick Austrian accent was actually dubbed over. Still, he got paid $10,000, which he invested into California real estate. His next paycheck, well, it actually took some time coming because Arnold found Hollywood less receptive than he had hoped. Several agents had told him that he had everything going against him. He had a long name, which was difficult to pronounce, a strange accent, and to top it all off, an unusual build which will never make it into films. For Arnold, this was the very motivation that he needed. Back in Austria, he had been told that he could never become a champion bodybuilder, and yet that is exactly what he became. Now he would reinvent himself through the same sheer hard work and dedication that he had learnt in the gym in order to become the highest paid movie star on the planet. He would make those agents eat their words. Arnold, he began acting lessons in 1974. He won a supporting role in the Bob Rafelson movie Stay Hungry. In this movie, he played a bodybuilder named Joe Santos, so it hardly stretched his acting ability. Still, he was absolutely determined to make an impression. And, well, make an impression he did. He won the Golden Globe for Best Newcomer. Then, in 1977, the documentary Pumping Iron opened in theaters. The film chronicled Arnold's victory in the 1975 Mr. Olympia over Lou Ferrigno, the future Incredible Hulk. As his charming, confident self, Arnold's on-screen charisma, it was impossible to resist. Pumping Iron led to small roles in the movies The Villain and The Jane Mansfield Story. By this point in his life, Arnold, he was already a successful businessman. He was combining real estate investments, a best-selling biography, and bodybuilding training courses. This meant that he could afford to wait for just the right film project. He filled his time with public appearances and social functions. One such function was the Robert F. Kennedy tennis tournament in Hyannisport. There, he caught the eye of a beautiful, dark-haired girl by the name of Maria Shriver. She was the daughter of Chardon and Eunice Kennedy Shriver and the niece of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Arnold and Maria, well, they fell in love at first sight. The Shrivers, they were great philanthropists, and through them, Arnold was introduced to the Special Olympics, which he has been passionately involved with ever since. In 1979, Arnold began a career as a CBS sports commentator. He also graduated from the University of Wisconsin with a business degree. But it was a year later that he stunned the bodybuilding world with his comeback at the Mr. Olympia competition in Australia. There, he captured his 7th title, cementing his legendary status as the greatest bodybuilder of all time. Arnold's comeback, though, it wasn't without controversy. He went to Australia in the role of a TV reporter, only signing his name to the register at the last minute. He was also good friends with the head judge, bodybuilding legend Bill Pearl. The general consensus was that Arnold on stage was a mere shadow of his former self. His victory was, for the first time, actually greeted by boos. Still, he had his 7th Mr. Olympia title. The great shape that Arnold had got into for the 1980 Mr. Olympia propelled him to his breakthrough role as Conan the Barbarian. After spending a year in training, working on his speech and learning how to use iron broadswords, he headed off to Yugoslavia and Spain for a grueling 6-month shoot. Conan the Barbarian, it raked in more than $100 million at the box office. Together with its sequel, Conan the Destroyer, it firmly embedded the name Arnold Schwarzenegger into moviegoers' consciousnesses. Following his success with the Conan movies, Arnold was offered a low-budget movie by first-time director and screenwriter James Cameron. This, well, it would prove to be his most iconic role. In The Terminator, Arnold plays a cyborg sent back in time to kill the mother of the man who will save humankind from destruction. The role, well, it was made for Arnold. His accent and his body, the very things that agents had said would work against him, were perfect for the part of the T-1000. The Terminator was an absolute smash, firmly establishing Arnold as the next great action star. By 1985, he had already been named International Star of the Year. And on April the 26th, 1986, Arnold, a staunch Republican, and Maria Shriver, a member of Democratic royalty, well, they were married. But their honeymoon, it was barely over before Arnold flew to Mexico to film his latest action blockbuster, Predator. This movie, again, won him the title of Action Star of the Year. After a string of action films, Commando, Raw Deal, Predator, and The Running Man, the forward-thinking Arnold was ready for a new challenge. And that challenge was comedy. So unsurprisingly, very few were willing to take a gamble on Arnold as a comic actor, but one who was the director Ivan Reitman, who created a special vehicle for Arnold. This vehicle, well, it was called Twins. The irresistible chemistry of Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito made Twins an immediate hit, and 2 years later, Arnold again teamed up with Reitman for Kindergarten Cop, another comedy success. A large part of the success of these films is Arnold's ability to laugh at himself. Arnold always got the joke, which was really endearing to fans. Over and above that, Arnold's also a gifted comedian, as anyone who's seen Pumping Iron will know. Now, one person who noticed Arnold's abilities on Kindergarten Cop, especially his rapport with children, was President George Bush. Bush appointed Arnold as the chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness. Now, this could have really been a symbolic role, but Arnold, he totally threw himself into it with absolute relish, visiting every state in order to promote the fitness lifestyle. Now, this movie winning streak, it totally continued for Arnold. He had Total Recall and Terminator 2. This sequel sequel cost $102 million, making it the most expensive film at the time. It returned an astonishing $519.8 million, with Arnie pocketing a cool $15 million. Now, Arnold's next big movie outing was Last Action Hero, a $100 million extravaganza, which seemed like a sure thing. But the film, it was a box office bomb and a critical flop. Hollywood was really quick to tear Arnie down, claiming that his time in the limelight was over, but Schwarzenegger, well, he had other ideas. He bounced back from defeat with the same focused determination as in his bodybuilding days. He reteamed with James Cameron for the action-packed James Bond spoof True Lies. Well, the movie was a smash, Arnold's critics were once again silenced, and he was back on top. In the mid-1990s, Arnold began focusing on giving back to the country that had given him so much. He became an organizer and sponsor of the annual Inner City Games. He was also very involved in the after-school care program. In 2003, during an appearance on the Jay Leno show, Arnold announced his candidacy for Governor of California. This was following the recall of Governor Gray Davis, sparked by the California electricity crisis. Arnold, he ran an energetic campaign despite a smear campaign organized by the LA Times. A number of women claimed that over the years, Arnold had molested them, while others claimed to have had affairs with him. Still, Arnold, he was able to rise above this with his unique mix of charm, intelligence, and wit. On one occasion, someone threw an egg which splattered on Arnie's jacket. He immediately whipped the jacket off, threw it over his shoulder, and called out, "Hey, I ordered bacon with those eggs!" Arnie, he easily won the governorship and immediately set about cleaning house at Sacramento, bringing his own unique style to the position, such as calling his Democratic opposition girly men. Arnold's first term, it was marked by such early victories as repealing a vehicle license increase and stopping illegals from getting driver's licenses. But then powerful state unions began to oppose his initiatives, and 4 ballot measures he sponsored in a special election in 2005, they were defeated. Despite this, Arnold, he was re-elected governor in 2006 with 56% of the vote. On his second term, he put a lot of effort into environmental issues. In 2006, he signed the Global Warming Solutions Act, making California the first state to put a cap on greenhouse gas emissions. Arnold's second term as governor, it came to an end in January of 2011. A few months later, the LA Times ran a cover story reporting that Arnold had fathered a child 14 years previously with the family's long-term mate. As a direct result of this revelation, Arnold and Maria ended their 25-year marriage. She and their 4 children moved out of the family home in Brentwood. Arnold's post-governorship movie career has seen him feature in such action flicks as The Expendables 2 and 3, Escape Plan, Sabotage, and the 5th installment of Terminator, in which he battles his younger self. Arnold, he has maintained strong ties to the bodybuilding world. Following his retirement from the sport in 1975, he promoted the Mr. Olympia competition. Then, in 1989, he and longtime partner Jim Lorimer started the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic, which is now the second biggest pro bodybuilding show, just behind Mr. Olympia. Arnold credits all of his success to the self-discipline, drive, and focus that he learnt from his bodybuilding career. In more recent times, Arnold has been involved in a social media feud with President Donald Trump in the wake of Arnie replacing Trump on Celebrity Apprentice. Trump blamed Arnold for the show's dismal ratings, and Arnold offered the commander-in-chief some timely advice on how to run the country. Arnold, a staunch Republican, refused to vote for Trump in the 2016 presidential election, the first time he had not supported the Republican candidate since becoming a US citizen. Although it's a battle we would all love to see, unfortunately Arnold can't challenge the Donald for the top job, as he wasn't born in the United States, even though he did become a citizen in 1983. Arnold, well, today he still lives the fitness lifestyle. He just celebrated his 70th birthday.
Pineapple! Coconut! Pineapple! Coconut pineapple! Coconut pineapple! Alright, let's turn around to the back.
And he still works out every day. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and do not forget to subscribe for brand new videos just like this every Monday and Thursday. Also check out some of our other videos that are over there on the right. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.